Good morning. It's wonderful to see you all, and welcome to our annual Metro Employee Service Awards. This event is extra special this year. It's extra special because, as you saw from the videotape, we are also celebrating in conjunction with you, the employees, the 50th anniversary of the Metropolitan Government. If you did have a chance to see the video on your way in, you know that getting where we are today was not an easy task. But here we stand. 50 years later, a stronger government, one of the best cities in the nation, and with you, some of the best employees in the world. As always, I want to thank Mayor Dean for his continued support of this event and Vice Mayor Neighbors for taking time out of her busy schedule to join us today. I'd also like to acknowledge our special guest who joined us. I know we had some of our Civil Service Commission members here today. One of our first commission chairmen, Civil Service Commission Chairman, Mr. Clay Bailey, joined us. And it's only fitting that as we celebrate with those of you with 30-plus years of service, that we especially honor those individuals who have reached the 50-plus milestone. It is a small but distinguished list with Charlie Caldwell, Chief Robert Conley, and Mr. Herman Vick. I hope that all of you enjoyed today's program, and at this time, I invite Vice Mayor Neighbors up for some brief comments, and she'll be followed by Mayor Dean.
Good morning. My comments are very, very brief. On behalf of the Metropolitan Council, I want to say a very special thank you to the three honorees today for their 50 years plus of service. Without their leadership, we would not be the city we are today. Their hard work, their dedication, and you know, they are model employees. They haven't had their names on the front page of the paper for scandals. You know, they're still there, they've been there, and they've been there for the city. And thank you so much for all that you do.
Well, good morning. This is always one of my favorite events of the year. I am a long-term Metro employee myself, and today when I was looking at the list of some of the folks who are going to receive recognition through a certificate, a lot of the people, particularly from the General Sessions courts, were sort of almost contemporaries of mine, so I'm starting to, my 30th can't be far away. It is amazing to think back at all the changes that have occurred over the last 50 years in the country and in our city since metropolitan government was formed. And, you know, every one of us could pick some form of technology that happened during the last 50 years or during the 30 years we've been here, or 25 years. You know, mine was, I remember when I was public defender and people started getting fax machines and how important I felt it was for us to get a fax machine to keep up with the technology race. We got the fax machine, and then it just goes on and on. But the metropolitan government has done great, I think, in terms of technology, and continue to advance and have the most modern equipment available to all of our staff. But all that equipment and all the great things that happen in our city wouldn't mean anything without having great people. The people who keep our greenways clean, who run our IT systems, who run our courts, who run our police and fire department, who do the work day in and day out. And I certainly appreciate very much how well people in this government perform. And, you know, the time that I've been mayor has been difficult economic times. Last year we were able to do something after a long delay. But this government just keeps going because of the quality of the people. And we are, I think, in a really good position compared to other cities around the country. And a ton of that credit goes to you all, because you guys made it happen, and I'm very appreciative for that. A special word of thanks to those getting the honor for 50 years. That's an incredible achievement. Probably not one I'm going to be able to match, but congratulations to y'all, and thank you for being here.
And I think Mr. Mayor took my program. I need to steal it from me. All right, as we do begin this program, as I said, we want to make sure that we just give some special recognition to 3 individuals who have, again, reached an incredible milestone. We're living in a time now, and particularly, I guess, with the generation they call Generation Y, that looks at staying long-term on a job, maybe being 10 years, and moving on to the next adventure. And so where you have 3 people who have literally dedicated their lives to public service, that certainly warrants special recognition. As I call their names, I'll ask them to come forward. If Vice Mayor and Mayor Dean would come forward, and we will begin the program to recognize them. First up, with 54 years of service, we have Mr. Charlie Caldwell. Mr. Cardwell began working for the city of Nashville in 1958. In 1981, he was appointed Director of Finance for Metro, and he still stayed. He currently serves as the Metropolitan Trustee for Davidson County and has done so since 1993. Next, we have with the Fire Department, Chief Robert G. Conley, with 52 years of service. Mr. Connolly was hired by the Nashville Fire Department as a firefighter in December of 1959. In 1966, he was promoted to engineer, followed by a promotion to captain in 1984. He currently holds the position of district chief, which he began in 1999. Next, we have Mr. Herman E. Vick, 54 years with General Services Department. Mr. Vick began his service for Metro on June 6 of 1958 as a laborer with Metro Public Works. He currently works for Metro General Services after transferring to that department on January 1st of 2003. And again, congratulations to the 3 of you. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go on with our department recognitions. As we call out your names, you can come forward, and we would ask that the department head or representative please join the mayor so that they can take their photo. We begin with the Office of the Assessor. Miss Elizabeth Shea Heathcock, 30 years. Thomas E. Roberson, 30 years. James E. Clary, Jr., 35 years. Next, we have Circuit Court, Miss Nancy C. Capps, 30 years. The Codes Department. Robert Ramsey, 45 years. County Clerk. Margaret W. Crow, 30 years.
There we go. And look right here. Keep smiling.
Criminal court clerk. Elaine S. Reagan, 30 years.
Here you go.
Philip E. Thompson, 30 years. District Attorney's Office. Michael Brook, 30 years.
Here you go, Mike.
David P. DeWitt, 30 years. John C. Zimmerman, 30 years. Emergency Communications. Donald Ricky Beasley, 35 years. Barbara N. Frazier, 35 years. Fire Department. Chief Whitford B. McCullough, 30 years. Doing double duty, firefighter/paramedic, J.S. Cohen, 35 years. Paramedic Maurice E. Tidwell, 35 years. General Sessions Court. You're done. Gail Scott, 30 years.
There you go. That's great. That's great. Smile. There
A.J. Murphy, 35 years. Health Department. Harriet M. Floyd, 35 years. Raymond A. Huffines, 40 years.
We got it.
Now, I must admit, this next department, I'm a little biased because it's one of my favorites, the Human Resources Department. Jane E. Madden, 30 years. Library. Diane M. Whitaker, 35 years. Elizabeth Fisher, 40 years. Sally A. Ray, 40 years. Metro Action Commission. Brenda M. Gill, 30 years. Parks Department. Pamela M. DeSoto, 30 years. Josephine E. Wright, 30 years. Sandra D. Bivens, 35 years. Terry L. Gleaves, 35 years. Robert L. Parrish, 35 years. Thomas H. Raines, 35 years. Michael D. Sweat, 35 years. William A. Trotter, 35 years. William W. Hassel Jr., 40 years. Willette J. Reynolds, 40 years. And now we move on to planning. With Maxie S. Starks, 35 years. The Police Department. Sarah F. Brunner, 30 years. Officer Richard W. Cruz, 30 years. Officer Robert W. Davenport, 30 years. Sergeant Scott F. Hull, 30 years. Officer Clifford W. Mann, 30 years. Officer David W. Michonne, 30 years. Sergeant Mary L. Puckett, 30 years. Lieutenant William G. Sneed, 30 years. Lieutenant Robert L. Tyndall, 30 years. Officer John D. Wheeler, 30 years. Officer Terry W. Davis, 35 years. Woohoo.
Hey, Gary, can we get a picture with Terry's wife up here too, please? Sure.
Sergeant John T. Patton, 35 years. Sergeant Freddie D. Stromat, 35 years. Officer Clifford J. Douglas, 40 years. Come on up, Officer Douglas, come on. Shirley F. Epperson, 40 years. Officer Archie N. Spain, 40 years. William P. Walker, Jr., 40 years. Bradford L. Worthington, 40 years. All right, we made it through our police department. I'm going to ask you all, I love you all. I'm going to ask you all, at the end of the program, if the department heads would please just stick around for a little bit. With the bad weather, we have had a few employees who are to be recognized today to come in late, so we want to make sure we give them a time to get their pictured and to be celebrated today as well. So we're making a list, and at the end of the program, we're going to run through that list. So if you will just stick around for a few more minutes. Public Works Department. We have Herbert Hudson, 35 years. John L. Jumper, 35 years. Davidson County Sheriff's Office. Elizabeth G. Gentry, 30 years. Ann M. Green, 30 years. James W. Warren, 30 years. Trustee's Office. We have a few people who are trying to catch up with Mr. Cardwell in this office. Patricia A. Greer, 30 years. Gerald A. Grigsby, 30 years. Janice K. Miller, 30 years. Patricia F. Hilton, 40 years. I think you see with HR, Mr. Sonny Lyons tries to be a full-service HR representative today. And last but certainly not least, the Water Department. Cleveland Blanton, 30 years. Charles R. Irvin, 30 years. Howard A. Gray, 30 years. Frank D. Madden, 30 years.
Let's take my one.
Oh, okay. We're all a team, right? Robert L. Martin, 30 years. Orlando B. Melendez, 30 years. Vanessa N. Braden, 35 years. Dewey M. Brewer, 35 years. Ted L. Carnahan, 35 years. And Ronald S. Moore, 35 years. All right. If you guys will give me about 3 seconds to transition here. All right. If we could get the fire department representative back up, please. James V. Simmons III. Mr. Simmons has 40 years with us. This concludes this morning's program, and give yourselves a round of applause here. I may have one more. Okay, give me 5 seconds to transition.
Hey, George, welcome.
Mr. Stephen Edwards with 30 years here. Want to come on up? And I believe we have two people from Parks also.
Jeff Chapman.
We're going to have Parks come up. We have Jeff Chandler, 40 years. And Mr. Ronnie Gillis, 40 years. And I believe we have one more with Parks. Is that Mr. Gilly? All right, Mr. Gilly, 40 years. And if I could get Scott Potter to come up for one more second, please. Have Mr. George Wolk Jr. with 30 years. And Ronald L. Burdine, 40 years. And if Chief Anderson could begin making his way back up front, please. We'll have one other officer to recognize, Officer Clarence M. Fain, with 30 years. Okay, I hope I got everybody. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Woohoo! All right. Congratulations again to you all. You truly are the backbone of our government, and I would never, ever, ever have you leave this early morning and go out in the rain without some nourishment. So we do have some refreshments for you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.